Welcome back to Cinema Pursuit. We have a special episode today. Did I know we were going to make this episode? No. Did I know this conversation was going to happen? Yeah. Peyton Buteau is our guest today. We just did Hot Fuzz. He is the co-host of the Apple Box Chronicle Podcast. And he's got, TikTok and everything. And he's just talking about movies every single day. I love his stuff. But mainly this conversation, it is about 2024 Trap, M. Night Shyamalan's Trap, starring Josh Hartnett, Alison Pill, a few other folks. And it is Peyton's favorite movie. I think he said he saw it over 20 times in the theater, which is just baffling to me. Obviously he's got the time, and I wish I had the time to do something like that. But the main thing is the passion, the fact that he found something that spoke to him, and there's a engaging conversation for him with this movie as a viewer that runs him through seeing the movie. And I talk about it. I rewatched it with my dad this year, and I had such a great time with it. And we had a little mini, about 30-minute conversation between, some other things, but mainly Trap. And I just wanted to make sure that it is out in a format, in the sense that, because I don't want it to just be in the middle of Hot Fuzz, because it's quite a bit of conversation. But you never know where these conversations are going to lead, and it led to this special episode. I'm grateful. Peyton will be back on the pod pretty soon, but we'll see you at the movies. Peace and love, and we'll get to the theme music for this special episode for Trap.
Trap took 6 months to write.
See, let's talk about Trap real quick before we get into action. No, I want to talk about it because the fact is that
there's no way Trap can be talked about real quick with me, but we can.
We'll talk about it in a one-sided conversation. How about that?
Okay.
Obviously, like you and Marley, y'all have done a couple of M. Night's movies on the Real Lovers pod. Trap is obviously, it's sitting on your wall for anybody listening. It is a poster on Peyton's wall.
And there's a painting of Josh Hartnett right there.
And I was talking about it when we were doing the horror movie draft, that the face acting in that movie is completely genius. I think it's a hilarious movie. I think it's one of his best movies, period. I've rewatched it with my dad this year, and I will say it's one of my favorite rewatches I've had in a long time, because just on the same level of Hot Fuzz, where I'm like, y'all understand what's going on. M. Night is so aware of the situation, and he's bringing such a comedy to the whole situation itself, that you want a good movie idea is fundamentally something that we've never seen before. And it can be the same thing, but something different. And that's what Hot Fuzz is. Trap is the same thing in a great way, where it's like, oh, y'all have a serial killer in a stadium, and we're gonna do this, and then the movie kind of flips it on itself, that this man is gonna fight till he gets out. And I think it's a genius movie. Why? What is your love for Trap? Is this one of your favorite movies of all time now? What is it for you?
Oh, Trap is, I would say it is my favorite movie. It's okay. I'm gonna put this as small as I can, because we're talking about Hot Fuzz here. So I would say it's a combination of what you said, which is that it's very original. It's very funny from the get. You look at the concept of the movie. It's a trap in this stadium with a bunch of teenage girls watching a pop star, and there's this serial killer, and they're setting up the sting operation, and you see this comically long line of SWAT members standing outside the doors, and all this stuff. So immediately, I think the thought is, okay, so this is ridiculous. So this is a little bit of a farce. It's kind of funny, and it's supposed to be buoyant. That's what the word M. Night uses a lot. Is he's it's the buoyancy of the tone. It's the fact that there's this serial killer, but then there's this little girl next to him, oh, this is my favorite song, and it's just so funny, that the contrast. And then you also have the pop star music with the sinister non-diegetic musical score, and then you have the two personas he's trying to balance. So the whole movie is this duality of a serious thriller and a goofy concept. And so that's I think where people get lost with it is they kind of went in where they were like, oh, this is gonna be like a grounded, gritty, psychological. I'm like, no, did you see the line of cops? Did you see the line of cops? It's
I think the
silly.
problem is that when you market a movie a certain way, people have certain
Right.
expectations. I saw the first trailer of Trap. I didn't see another trailer. I don't have a habit of watching trailers anymore for this reason.
Yeah.
Uh, I think the fact is that you have to be open to movies.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the sense that, like, we just saw a Testament of Anne Lee
I
at the
did too.
festival. And before, like, Amanda went in, before, like, she got an award, she said something, she introduced the movie, and then she ran in before she did a Q&A. And she's like, hey, make sure y'all laugh a little during this movie. It's meant to be funny. And it's like, sometimes, like, and it's a sad thing that people don't understand tone. And what you're talking about is tone, right? That Hot Fuzz and Trap, both masterful tone of like, hey, we're doing something serious, but we're also not being serious at the same time. And that takes a lot to do. It takes a lot of effort. And like I told you, what M Night did with that, I think is one of the most special things he's done in his entire career, because it's a recognition of like, hey, we can be serious, but this entire idea is something you've never seen before, and let's play with that, right? That there is
Yeah.
a morbidity to following the serial killer instead of a, you know, and the opposite is the older woman, the criminologist,
Yeah. The profiler.
the
Yeah.
profiler. That is essentially, Silence of the Lambs, low key vibe, right?
Hmm.
That is this small woman with a bunch of military men, cops, all this stuff around her, right? That's the other side. We've already seen that. Let's play it from the other side. And that's what Hannibal, if you've seen Hannibal, the show, amazing show, they do that bit. But they also have Trap that does the same thing and has new ground within that. And I'm talking about, it could be anything of the comedy of like of Kid Cudi's character coming by and just like
Yeah.
looking at Josh Hartnett, like, like the tall cup of water he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And I love how that is funny and also a little meaningful to me because both of them, those characters are hiding something
Yeah.
bad. They both like you see how Kid Cudi, he's a jerk to his assistant, but then when Lady Raven's around, he's like, "Hey, what's
Oh
up?"
my
He's like
god,
gets all
hey.
nice,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's almost game recognizes game. They're both performers, and it's just weird, like, oh, like this is maybe there's a reason he was drawn to him besides him just being Josh Hartnett. But also,
The,
what you're saying is so true about
that's true.
Silence of the Lambs, and I think what I like about this movie is about Trap is that it's taking it from the other perspective and it's showing how the cops and the military guys and the SWAT team are like easier to manipulate for Cooper, but when it comes to the woman, the profiler, she knows him better because his real monster within him is his mother. It's
Yeah.
the mother that he never forgave and got over and everything that he's been through with her. So
The
because
encapsulation is the
she
scene where he walks through and like, oh, hey guys, what's up? Hey guys, what's up? And then he gets
yeah,
like the cup of coffee, like, hey, oh y'all, like we're out of salt or like sugar, and then he like,
yeah, yeah,
goes
yeah.
under it, and it's like that's the thing of like the casting of like a white man specifically in that role, where it's
Hmm.
like they're not asking a question about who this man is one bit, and I'm
Well,
like,
and
I would be skeptical.
right before that, they hold up a picture of another white man that he has killed, and they say, "Oh, this guy was like a family man. He was super innocent. These are the people that should win." It's such an intentional line of dialogue to show exactly what their headspace is. So when Cooper walks in, you understand. Okay, so they don't look at this guy the same way. They don't picture this guy as the serial killer, and that's the problem, right? It's like I mean, you see it on TikTok all the time. The way that people will go into like I don't know if you've seen these free will challenges. They're like a reminder of free will, and these people will walk into Walmart break rooms and they'll sit down and they'll wait and talk to people and they'll act like they work there and they'll see how long it takes before someone notices that they don't actually work there, or like the people that would go and they would scream in the store and then when they get confronted about it they would gaslight the employee and then they would have someone else in another aisle that would scream at the same time so that it would like trick them. And so there's all of these things where a lot of it has to do with social media. We're so performative that we're just used to this kind of reality where people just we don't look at other people and we're so sucked into our own perception of
Yeah.
what's going on that yeah, when you're in the mind of the serial killer, everything is like, you're seeing how he perceives all these threats and how he navigates it. But if you were to look into the mind of somebody else in that movie, that guy would just walk past you. You wouldn't really
Yeah.
notice anything about him. So I
The
think that's
funny
what's
is, like,
interesting.
my favorite character of the movie is the guy who helps him get the T-shirt or like the
Yeah,
sweatshirt.
love that guy.
And at the end of the movie, I'm like, guys, I wanted another whole movie with this guy. You know, at the end when he's like watching the news.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
my
actually
god!
why that scene's in there, because he had that idea for
Yeah,
like a little stinger at the end, and he just loved the performance of that guy so much
he's
that he
so good.
decided to actually film it. And so that's why that's in there, is just because that guy did such an amazing job in the movie. Yeah.
And that's the
Uh,
thing, like when you should always plan. Like Edgar, like this movie is so planned, but like I think you should always plan and then just throw it away whenever something else arises that's better. You know.
yeah.
Like it's not in this. Actually, it is in the schedule to talk about Trap. I did put it in there before.
Oh,
Like whenever you go with a vibe, you have to chase the thing that, like, oh, we have a good actor. Like, let's put him in more stuff.
right.
Mission Impossible 5. There's a guy. I think he's called like the Bone Collector, the Bone Doctor. Yeah, Bone
Mhm.
Doctor. Yannick Vinter.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
you know I've seen that movie too much. But his character was only supposed to be in the movie for 10 minutes, and they're like, this guy is so good, and they kept putting him in the movie. And then by the end of the movie, like Rebecca Ferguson's character like murders him at the end of the movie because like that's her like big character moment, I guess. But go ahead, what were you saying?
I was gonna say, just to answer your question, because I feel like I didn't, about why Trap, right?
Yeah,
I think it's a combination of like my appreciation for the filmmaking, and the fact that it's a movie that captures how, I guess, people can feel trapped in the life they were given, the circumstances they were given, and maybe the family that they're kind of connected to, right? And a lot of the time, we set our own traps too, in minor ways. Like when I make content online and I don't want my family to watch it, I'm like, I got to keep these two things so separately, which is, it's kind of a silly example, but it's like, it feels sometimes that feels like you're covering up murder. Like it's like you're like you have maybe two friend groups, and they meet, and you're like, wait,
collision of the worlds.
I didn't even realize this, but I have different colloquialisms, different ways that I act around this person versus this person, and now that these two things are touching, I don't know who to be. And so I feel like that is a sensation that a lot of people get in the modern world, especially when we're able to perform on our phones so much. And I mean, what I do on TikTok and on the podcast is, it's objectively a performance, right? It's
Yeah,
just, but being aware of it and trying your best to be, I guess, honest through your performance, use it as an extension, an expression of yourself. And then there's also people that use that to hide themselves. And I think it can be tempting to try to just hide all the things you don't like about yourself, instead of using, your performance, so to speak, to express that stuff. And so the movie showed me that, and I became a lot more, I guess, willing to take the risk of being like, you know what, I will put my TikToks up on Instagram to find a new audience, even though my family and my girlfriend's family can see that stuff. And what I found is that most people either scroll past it, they don't mind, or they're like, oh wow, I didn't know that Peyton did this stuff. This is
yeah.
super cool. And so a lot of it put it all in a very simple package, that anxiety. And I was like, why am I acting like I'm a serial killer? I should just put this stuff out. And on top of that, it shows how, when it comes to generational trauma, I think art can really have a profound impact on how people, it almost gives us a different perspective from the one we were given by maybe our parents or our environments that we grew up in. And it allows us to see our lives in a different and more beautiful way. So Riley in the movie, watching Lady Raven say, hey, I had to forgive my father who left, because I would never move on otherwise, and I want you guys to do the same. Release the person has hurt you. And she presumably forgives her school bullies in that moment. She puts the flashlight up, and the only one who doesn't is Cooper, because he's holding on to the resentment towards his mom, and he also doesn't. He sees this as silly. He's
Yeah.
projecting. He's like, these guys are performing their all these people are in pieces. They're broken, and I hate that they think they can just be that way, because he has this idea that he has to present himself as a whole, complete, perfect individual. I think that plays into masculinity a lot. Like, a lot of people, they push all of their flaws down and all of their traumas down, and they say, I have to be this perfect person for everybody. But that
You know,
arcus, the
in
way
No Other
that,
Choice, when he's doing this.
yes.
So we're talking about like low key spoilers. I'm not gonna, you'll understand once you see the movie, but like
Oh,
the
I've seen it.
conversation of, I know, I'm saying for like anybody
Oh, the
listening,
viewers, yeah.
but because the conversation that Park Chan Wook has ultimately is about that, right? About the responsibilities of masculinity, the way that you hide it, the way you show up for your family, the presence that you have in their lives, and the way he portrays it is extremely interesting, I think. And especially in a contemporary time, like you said, we need more stories like this. And I don't think, your run of the mill regular director can make stories like this. And ultimately, what M. Night did with Trap specifically is what good movies do, and that's distill a feeling that's universal, right? And it is a universal feeling that, I might act a different way here, right? I go to work, I act a different way, right? I'm like, if I pick up the phone and talk to my parents, I might be, acting a different way, right? And it's very hard to try to be the same person. I will say, like for me, I've spent the last like 10 years of my life consolidating, meaning that if you get me here, you get me the same everywhere, right?
Right,
I Twitter, right? I put my face on there because I want to make sure that you understand that this is me talking, and that also is a reminder to me that I can't go on here and say something wrong,
right,
I'm saying this with my full chest, and I am not gonna say something wrong about somebody. I'm not gonna do something wrong because I'm aware that this is people know this is me, right? And it's not like I am gonna do something wrong or do something, but it's like it's just a good reminder that like, hey, you got to stand on business when you talk about what you're talking about, just in general when you open your mouth in life, because a
right.
lot of people they don't. So it is
Yeah.
interesting that we need to consider what we talk about. That's all.
Yeah, it's so easy to just compartmentalize your whole identity, and especially when you have it at your fingertips. It's like
Yeah.
I could go on, this platform and do this and hide behind a fake account, a burner account or whatever, and say horrible things and like do whatever. And you go over here and you pretend that you're all cool and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot more people in a scary sense like that are doing that we don't know. But
Oh yeah.
but I think what M Night does so well is that he's always balancing the dark with the light. He's saying, yeah, this is what this guy is able to win so often because the system doesn't challenge that. The
Yeah.
system actually rewards that very often. You know, to not have not show emotion and just be a mask. And but really what happens is that it is inevitable that you will trap yourself, right? You will put yourself in a situation where suddenly two ways you've been pretending are in the same space, and you can't get out of that without actually letting someone in, and that's open and actually opening yourself up. And so we see Cooper show a lot of honesty in the second half of the film and start to actually express the things that he's been bottling up, but it also makes him a lot scarier.
Yeah.
And I think, I think what struck me the most about the story is how you see how he he is Riley's father, but I actually really believe that Riley's going to be okay
Yeah.
because you see how she learns on that same day from the art that she loves and the music that she loves that you can like you don't have to when something bad like that happens to you and you don't have to hold on to that forever. You can learn to let go and to release that, and it doesn't have to be the reason that you become the same kind of person and hide things about yourself and kind of crush your own light in a way. So,
That's why
and I feel
Catholics have they have confession. I'm not a Catholic, but the whole point of I don't know how they view it today, but just the fundamental fact of confession was that hey, if I did something wrong, I just want you need to let it out so then you can like relieve yourself of that. And you should be able to relieve yourself of trauma like that hopefully in your life. It's not easy, but you definitely need to.
well, yeah, and also just I guess yeah, it's kind of about in a way forgiveness, not
Yeah.
because her father may deserve to be forgiven, but it's because she deserves the peace, right, that comes from that.
Did you watch Frankenstein, like Guillermo del Toro's
Yeah,
Frankenstein?
yeah, very similar stuff going on in there.
For me, I love that movie, and it kind of hit at the right time in life in general when it comes to that conversation. And I'm like, it just blows my mind that people like now that people are seeing it more that they don't really connect to the movie. And I would hope in the same way as Trap that like people come around on this movie and be like, hey, this has something to say. People are like, oh, this was too plain. I'm like, you realize this is the Frankenstein, right? This is like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. There's nothing else going on. I don't know what more y'all wanted from this, or whatever else people are complaining about. I'm like, just love movies for what they are,
A
And there,
friend of mine, sorry, did I
no,
interrupt?
good, good.
I was going to say a friend of mine said something really wonderful about Frankenstein. They love Guillermo del Toro and Frankenstein and love the movie, of course. And they said, what I love the most about this is their words. What I love the most about the movie is that it's not as much an adaptation directly of the book Frankenstein, but it is more so a expression of how Frankenstein made Guillermo del Toro feel,
Yeah,
and it's how it made him feel less alone, and it's how it made him feel understood. And so it's really just a reflection. This is how this story made me feel. And
yeah.
that's why in 2056 I'm going to make Peyton Buto's Trap. I'm just kidding, that's not going to
Yeah.
happen. But
See,
that,
Alfonso Cuarón and Guillermo, they're talking about Frankenstein, which I mean, if you just go on any podcast, then you'll find the conversation. But they were talking about it, and he was like, "Yeah, like as long as I've known you, you've loved Frankenstein, and you were supposed to make this movie like 20 years ago." And I think if you had made it then, it would have been more formalist. It would have been very straightforward. But because he made it at the time he made it at, it really was an adaptation of like the emotion that he's feeling rather than the actual like word for word, beat by beat. This is the way the story unfolds on her perspective, like from Shelley's perspective to what we get in the movie. It'd be very close. But it's like this movie is not that. It is really. I think it's quite genius because he took a long. I think he took 2.5 years off and on. He was working on Nightmare Alley, but 2.5 years to write Frankenstein because it took a while to figure out that chapter one, chapter two sort of thing, which I
yeah,
loved. That 90 minutes of the movie, like, hold on, no, pump the brakes and like put gas in the tank and be like, hey, we're about to run another hour, and they did, and it's awesome. I
yeah,
loved it, and then ultimately, if it doesn't have that end, the movie doesn't work, right? That
right,
fundamentally, it is about forgiveness. And it's the same thing about this, right? That Riley has to give forgiveness to a monster, right?
right,
And you get what I mean. You get the
right.
juxtaposition I'm
Oh,
writing with that,
absolutely,
right? That
absolutely.
it is like because the monster is not the creature. It is it is Frank. It is
That's why,
Victor. That's
yeah.
the monster. Which I mean, spoilers for like a 200-year-old book. My bad. If y'all haven't read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, it actually it's one of those things where you read it in class and I'm like, why am I reading this? And then, you know, you watch the movie, you watch this movie, you watch the old movies, you watch the classic movie, and you're like, oh, there's something fundamentally human about this story. And that's what I think good genre does that. Alrighty. So box takes, but I think we're gonna call it the Apple Box takes today. A little Apple Box Chronicles, joint
Yes.
take today. What is your Apple Box take today? How big is the Apple Box today?
So
Is it
I got
small?
a
Is it
couple.
big?
They're like my go-to hot takes
Okay.
because they're kind of incendiary a little bit. They're like they frustrate people, but I believe these wholeheartedly. It's not rage bait like everyone says. Rage bait is such a terrible thing because
Yeah.
it,
I think of rage bait, the word is rage
well,
bait also.
rage bait, people are just like, oh, this has to be rage bait. It's like, no, dude, we just have different opinions.
S-
Sometimes
yeah.
sometimes people are trying to rage bait, and I think that's adding to an issue because now we're becoming desensitized to the idea that the diversity of the human experience exists and that people are going to like movies that
Yeah.
aren't acclaimed and that aren't widely loved. Anyway, I'm not going to get on that, but for me, I already said Last Jedi is my favorite Star Wars. That's one that makes
Yeah.
people upset. Halloween Ends, my favorite Halloween.
Halloween Ends is the newest
Hmm.
one that they made. Actually, I got to get you and Tony together. Tony loves that movie too. Tony Michael, who is also starting to, like talk a lot more about movies and stuff. I just had him on for King Kong, for
Nice.
Peter Jackson's King Kong. You and him will get along when it comes to Halloween's End. It ain't for me, I'll
Yeah,
tell you that.
I
You know?
love it.
And see, my thing is, if you don't like a movie, you can't you ain't got to go on Letterboxd and be like half star and have some funny smarmy joke. Like, just don't like the movie, you know. Like, if anybody goes to my Letterbox and you go through my Letterbox, and there's gonna be a lot of movies where I don't rate the movie. It's either because I am maybe mixed about the movie, maybe I don't have final feelings, but especially if I don't like the movie. Meaning, like, Honey Don't just came out, like the Coen movie. Of course, there's good filmmaking in there. The movie's not good, but it's like, I'm not going to sit there and try to dunk on a movie that, why am I wasting my time being negative about it, right? And a lot of people spend too much time being negative about stuff. I watched Halloween Ends. Okay. I'm on to the next one. I can't say anything. I'm not
But
going to say anything.
here's my favorite hot take to throw out. This is my favorite one because I'm so passionate about it. Every single movie M. Night Shyamalan has put out since 2015 is a masterpiece. Every single one.
I have to watch Knock at the
But yeah,
Cabin.
that's The Visit, Split, Glass, Old, Knock at the Cabin, Trap. All masterpieces in my opinion.
I think he finally
No,
realized who he
exactly.
was.
That's precisely
Meaning in the
objectively what
sense
happened.
that, like, I don't know what y'all talked about with After Earth, but, like, I can't believe he made you watch that.
Wait, hold on. So I like After Earth, but I like After Earth for personal reasons. I recognize it's a deeply flawed film, and I understand it's
Yeah.
not even a film M. Night Shyamalan likes. Like, this is true.
What exactly?
But you're right in the fact that he
Exactly.
found himself after that. It's a necessary evil. He had to go through that arc of his career
100%.
because I think all creatives have to do that at some point. It's like you have to figure out, okay, this is not for me. This is not my wheelhouse, or maybe I'm not good at everything. But what I love, I can refine what I love to do, and this is maybe just not what I enjoy doing. You know?
Because what he did with The Visit and essentially just taking back authority with his money and his
Yes.
creativity.
It's
Both.
every movie he's
And
paid for.
besides Knock at the Cabin, I don't think he's made a movie where, like, the box office was like down,
I
or
don't think Knock
up
at the
down
Cabin
sort of
even was a
situation.
flop. I think it still made money back.
It still made money, but, like, it wasn't like
Right.
good. Like, it wasn't enough to make all the money back with marketing
Maybe
in a
not.
sense, but it still made
Yeah,
money.
Trap made money.
But it says something that he understood, that, like, he made The Visit very cheap, made a lot of money, on other subsequent movies, but he understood what the market was, but also that what he's doing, he can do something creative and still make money from it. Because you can't say that Trap, Old, Glass. I mean, maybe I'll take Glass and Split out of there because technically that's his own IP, and he made movies with an existing IP. But these aren't like conventional movies
Yeah.
either. I have a friend who watched, or like Zach, he watched Glass without even having. I don't think he saw Split. I think he's seen
Yeah.
Unbreakable, but he didn't see Split. But I was like, I don't know how you did it. But he's like, you need to watch it. It was good. I was like,
It's so
okay.
good.
I
Glass
haven't
is
seen Glass yet. I haven't seen Glass because I've been waiting to watch it with
fair
my dad,
enough.
and sometimes we were like
Glass
slow to watch some movies.
it's my second favorite behind Trap of his movies. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Glass has such a strong message to it that it's so universal, it's so simple, but it literally I saw it in theaters and I liked it always, but when I revisited it 2 years ago when I was really on my Shyamalan kick and that kind of started my descent into madness, let's say, I really realized, I was like, this is like worldview altering stuff right here. Like, it really makes you feel like you are capable of great, extraordinary things, and it's really beautiful. And I think if everybody watched that movie and was open to it in that way and kind of took that message in and really took it sincerely, I think actually the world would be a way better place, because I think that really is all it comes down to with a lot of people who are corrupt and who have hate in their hearts is it comes down to the fact that at one point or another they just didn't feel like they were enough or they could be themselves, and so they see other people being themselves and they're like, no, 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 no. Like, you know, it's all, I think it all
Yeah,
starts at a very personal place and then it spirals into something bigger. And I think, not to get back on track, but that's what that character essentially is kind of doing in a lot of the movie. And that's why he's so privileged in the system that he lives in. And the system not challenging him is a big problem of that, because that's like how it's all kind of constructed, is to
yep.
eliminate the individuality and the diversity of the human experience, and to make everything kind of boxed in. And so the character feels like he needs to be boxed in, and that's kind of what's happening in Glass. It's you're seeing these people who've awakened something extraordinary in themselves, essentially an attempt to, you know, be like, actually, no, you're not. You're crazy for thinking that there's something special about you. Your voice doesn't matter. You know, you need to realize that you're just like, you know, ordinary, and there's nothing there. It's all in your head, you know, sort of thing. But it's
It's definitely like a
right,
paradox in a sense where it's like I think that the human experience is universal, but it's not
right,
typical. Meaning that we all have something special about us that we need to give this
right,
world, right? There's a reason why we're here. I
right.
believe that in my bones. But that also doesn't mean that we're all the same because I mean, most people would not be, spending their afternoons talking about movies in a sense, People don't have passion for life or art or for anything. My passion for art is a translation of my passion for humanity, right? In a real way. Celine's song was talking about materialists, and she said something that like made me realize something about me too. She's like, my choice of drugs is humans, in the sense that like human behavior, humanity is what fascinates me to no end, right? If you need to make a movie like Materialist or Past Lives, whereas these are and like even what M. Night does, where you talk about the thematic work of these movies, and it's fundamentally that it's the idea of a human emotion, right? You're talking about the mother who is happy for her son, but she's also losing her son at the same time. That is a human emotion, right? Because it's a level.
So
It's
yes,
there's levels to it. It's not just one emotion. We're never feeling one
right,
emotion at the same time. We're feeling
so much
multiple
of it is
things.
contradictory, right? Is paradoxical. And I think
Exactly.
in that is also, Trap is a man who doesn't believe in that paradox. He believes in one or the other. And then he's learning about that.
But he
He
is the
is the
paradox,
paradox.
isn't
He's
he?
learning that he is the paradox throughout the day, because he's thinking he has this hatred for humanity, and he believes that when he's a dad, he's just wearing a mask, and you know, everything. And now he's realizing on this day that maybe that is actually something he loves to do, is be a dad. And it's kind of become real, and he never had to face that until it's under threat, right? So you're seeing how he paradoxically has this resentment towards humanity, and how everyone, he sees everyone as a fake, and is like, you're especially the pop star on stage. He's like, you pretend to be all great and whole when you're on stage, but really you have flaws too. Everyone is in pieces, he says. Everyone has something. And he knows, I think he knows that because he's projecting himself. He's a pretender too. But
Yeah.
paradoxically, I think the love he feels for his daughter, that is the one person that he's like, that he does actually see that fullness of humanity in, is his
And
child,
the
and it
thing is,
awakens.
if he thought what he believed, then spoilers for Trap, finally. If you get out of the arena, he would have just jumped out the car and ran the other way. He'd be
Or
like,
he would have
forget my
jumped down the
daughter, right?
hatch in the first scene when the little thing in the floor opens up. He needs to convince his daughter to go with
Yeah.
him. He needs to escape, not for himself. He needs to escape in a way that does not dismantle the idea that his daughter has about him, because that is the most important thing to him. His narcissism
Yeah.
has now inextricably connected to how his daughter sees him. And I think actually there's a lot of parents that have a similar narcissism to that, where they can't stand
Yeah.
their child having any perception of them other than, oh, I'm perfect and great. And so they hide a lot of things from their children. They're not open with them.
So
Yeah.
much so, there was I can't talk about who said it, but because I just don't believe to. But he was talking about how people will write
Hmm.
journals, like
Shoot.
personal diaries. And even in personal diaries for ages, for hundreds of years, people will write fake things. They will lie in their journals, not because it's the truth, but because they know that their kids are going to read it. And they can't have that
Right.
reflection onto their kids, right? Like if my kids read my journals, like anything I write, they will have a honest reaction of like what I was going through in my life at that
Yeah.
point, right? But that's not how
Yeah.
people are. You do those things so they know that you're human and that you've gone through hardships and they're going to go through hardships, but they're going to get through them because that's what humanity is, right? It is about persevering. But I digress. There's a whole we'll talk. We're doing trap next year, okay? At some
We
point, we'll
will.
do trap, okay? Because I got to make sure to rewatch the movie and be ready, and then I'll shut up and let you
Oh
talk for
yeah,
two
that's
hours.
basically what's going to happen. Oh, I did the
We'll have a
episode
good
on my show
conversation.
was our longest by far. It was 3 hours long versus.
I mean, that's a
Yeah,
good pod.
that's a good one.
You
And
got
you
a
know
lot
what? I
on that.
still think about it, and I'm like, damn, I should have said this. I should have said that. Oh, I forgot to talk
You-
about this.
well, you're
Oh
gonna get
yeah.
another
Oh yeah.
chance. Don't worry. You got to do a
I have a
retrap.
retraps every month.
You
I
retrap every
retraps.
month.
Yeah, like relapse.